excited that the three of us have finally came together to do this.
Me too.
You know what I'm saying? We got Keena Atkinson here.
Hey.
Hey. Rougie Wellness, of course.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? That's your baby.
Mm-hmm.
We got Andrea Galvin.
Hey.
Hey. Representing her aspiring, successful kids.
Yes.
Right? New book. We got Drew. Me. Pancake Cafe Stone Back to Basics group. This is so cool. You know, I was telling you earlier that I think a good topic of conversation today is just managing the image that other people have of your child.
Defending
Defending that image. You know,
mm-hmm.
That's really resonates with me right now, just with everything that Anthony's going through. And I just think it's super hard because I always teach people when you're developing character, you know, it's important for you to learn how to not care about how people see you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Like your negative light in my perspective is it's not my business how
None of
you
your
see
business.
me.
Yeah.
You know? But
That's
if
their problem.
Yeah, and if I eat, breathe, and sleep that all the time and I don't care how people see me, why do I get such an energy when I hear people describing my son? Like, why does that inflict so much pain on me? Like, to Keena, I was in tears today, G.
Okay.
Tears. And I was so mad. And I was with Asen, and he's just looking at me, and you know how energetic Asen is. And I'm like, I'm sorry, baby. Like, Daddy's just going through a lot of processing right now with how people see Anthony, and it's really frustrating for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to, you know, process this and evaluate it and work through it.
Like, give me the story about what's going on right now, like with Anthony and what happened today.
So he just having some I'll just say some legal troubles.
Okay.
You know, he made some poor decisions, and you know, there's a baseline story of what's happened,
mm-hmm.
and you know, when you communicate that baseline story to somebody, but then somebody else wants to look at the story differently,
mm-hmm.
and it just made it seem like everything was negative on his behalf, and that's what I really struggled with.
Okay, so like they was basically projecting their own lens, their perspective, their experiences, perceptions of Anthony onto the situation, but they don't know the full complexity of Anthony. They don't know everything he's been through and the things that led up to the progress that he has made in the past, you know, few years even. They don't know those things or the things that you guys have been through.
Yeah, you know, just discrediting him.
Yeah.
Based on decisions he's made over the, you know, the last 2 years within the legal system. Like you said, not knowing who he is, not knowing his character, not knowing all the things that transpired. It's painful. How do you do it? Like, how do you do it as a parent? That's a good question.
Well,
where's the line where we don't have to defend that image of our kids?
Well, the thing is, here's the thing. Sometimes we treat our children as an extension of who we are. Sometimes I think we treat them like as a reflection, right? Of who we are. Like, as if our children, you know, it's like if your children are doing good, then it's like a reflection of you as a parent. And so then it's like if your children are, if you think of it that way, and me and you have talked about good versus bad, hierarchy, you know, and so if you were going to do the hierarchy thing, then it's like if my children are doing good, then I'm doing good as a parent. But if my children are quote unquote, if you're going to call it bad, then you're reflecting that as a parent, instead of saying if my children is experiencing a season of a mountain versus if my child is in a season of a valley. Because if you look at it as that way, mountains or valleys, then it's like how am I support you best while you're on your mountaintop?
Right.
What resources do you need on your mountain? If my son is in a valley, I need to support him differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's not good or bad. Judgment is out of it. It's like, how can I support them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I know what you're saying is, how do I not let those outside opinions or judgments, how do I not take that personally? Because I shouldn't, but I do, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you're telling me. I think that you have the answer, so I'm going to bounce it back. Like,
oh, you're so funny.
You know, Andrew, what let me ask you, what do you think? Like, if you're aware of the fact that, you know, these people outside, it affects me, but it shouldn't, but it does. Why? What does that mean? How are you internalizing that? How are you internalizing their judgment on you about your parenting? What does that, like, how are you being triggered by that?
Man, you know what? I definitely need to do my shadow boxing. For
Yeah.
those of you who don't know what shadow boxing is shadow work. Okay, that's a psychological term, right?
Yep.
But yeah,
More spiritual.
yeah, spiritual, yeah.
Yeah.
But we have an inside joke. We just call it shadow boxing.
boxing.
Yeah, we're gonna put our gloves on one day on this podcast. We're gonna duke it
we're
out.
gonna shadow box.
You know, it's interesting because in that moment, and I still haven't made time to reflect
Mm-hmm.
and to process and evaluate my emotions. I don't know why I was so triggered today while that was transpiring. You know, it almost feels like, you almost feel like you're listening to a lie, you know? Like you said, hey, my son's going through the mountaintops right now, you know? And you're making it seem like this just the regular routine of the valley. This is the drive.
Mm-hmm.
This is what he is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I don't think that things are that black and white. And I think that people that are connected on a high level understand things aren't black and white, you know? But our society is taught and trained to look at black and white. You know, if you make a decision that's poor, you're a poor person. You make a decision that's bad, you're a bad person. And God forbid you do it more than once, because now you're a repeat offender. Habitual. Yeah, now you're a habitual bad person. You know, and we laugh about it, but it's so sad in society, you know. And when you look at somebody's growth and development and the character, and you take all these small wins and then you go in front of a group of people that don't know about all these small wins, maybe I felt very degraded.
Okay.
You know, I felt very like demeaned as a parent. Like, you know, I know there's a level of accountability that needs to be held in regards to how you know, think and act and speak. But just like, you know, it's just like a very negative situation to be in. And I just felt very demeaned as an individual. I'm not having people see him in a different light. And I think Andrea's in the back feeding the baby. You know, this, I think this is it really correlates to how you felt. I think I know how you felt now when Andrea had mentioned that there was somebody that knew me from like 10-15 years ago. I was like, oh, Andrew's a dog, he ain't sugar honey iced tea, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's a womanizer. And she called me crying, like, babe, like, she said all these negative things about you. And I'm like, why do you care? Like, just because she don't see me in the light I am today, that's her loss, not ours.
Right.
You know? But here I am giving her this feedback. I'm telling her not to care how people see me, but yet I'm so sad and so hurt about how people see my son.
Yeah.
You know? It's just interesting to be aware of that transpiring, you know?
Yeah. Something that stands out is the fact that part of mindfulness and awareness is, you know, and being present is having, you know, people think, oh, being mindful and being so wusa, you know, whatever, is about just always being blah blah, light is the world and happy, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not it, because you can't you know, do the, you know, it's called spiritual bypassing, where you just only acknowledge the mountains and not the valleys, right?
Toxic positivity,
yep. Exactly. And so part of being mindful, part of being present, part of being aware is just experiencing what you're experiencing as you experience it, right? So it's like not trying to change it. It's like, okay, like this morning you was hurt, you was degraded, you was sad, you was upset, you was misunderstood. Those were how you were feeling, right? And then it's like being present with that. It's not trying to change. It's just like, I feel this is how I'm feeling. And it might, and then the second part to it is, now that I'm sitting with how I'm feeling and not ignoring it or just trying to pretend I'm just going to look on the brighter side, part of it is like understanding, well, this is what I need to do forward. Here's what, now I got to sit with it, maybe decide what was it specifically about what that person said. I'm sure there was something specific that maybe you do or do not put your finger on right now. I don't know if you already know exactly what it is, or you got to be like, okay, what is it specifically that made me feel like this? How, you know, like as a parent, what is something in my parenting that I'm so proud of that this person is just completely overlooking? Or what is it that I'm feeling insecure about that this person is like picking on or pushing their thumb into, and that's triggering me. You know, that's part of the being aware, the mindfulness part, right? The presence. So you're doing that, right? Sitting with those feelings and acknowledging them. And then it's like, well, are you being triggered because they are seeing something that in you, you know, that you're very protective of, that you're guarding? Or is it like something that they are just not acknowledging that you have already worked a lot on? Or is it something else? I don't know.
I have a question for you, because we talk about, okay, so you know how we say, I'll just look on the brighter side of things, or, you know, we'll dismiss the negativity, right? But that's not healthy, right? We know that. And that's why, you know, we, you know, come from a high vibrating state of mind where, like you said, you feel those negative emotions. It's important to feel that. And, you know, today I was like, hey, you know, even when Andrea called me, she was like, babe, hey, are you okay? I'm like, you know, right now is probably not the best time to talk to me because I'm hurt and I'm sad. You know, can I call you later? And then she says, well, what's wrong? So she opened that door to say, hey, no, I'm your partner. I want to be here with you.
Right.
Like,
don't shut me out.
Yeah, don't shut me out.
Yeah.
You know, I want that opportunity.
You go, girl.
Good job, girl. That's Bae in the back, y'all. Y'all can't see her now. She'll make a guest appearance. She's taking care of baby. But when I think about, so like I'm reading Indistractable. You've read Indistractable,
yes.
right? Okay, so Andrea's read some of Indistractable. I'm on chapter, I think, 8 now, and I'm loving it. I'm so loving it. I'm so happy. So, you know, when you learn about like the internal triggers, the external triggers, the chapter I'm reading right now talks about, you know, being weary of liminal distractions, you know, those transitions. Let me just look at my phone real quick, and then 30 minutes goes by. But when I think about like the psychology behind, you know, processing those negative emotions, and then I think about the leadership behind developing character and saying, hey, there was something that happened to me today that triggered me, right? And I'm going to process through those triggers, and I'm going to shadow work and shadow box, and I'm going to figure it out in a couple of days. I'm going to write it down, and I'm like, that's what triggered me. I have a question for you. And this may be more of a psychological question, or just maybe just a spiritual question. So after we do our shadow work, right, and we figured out, you know, why we felt so negative, anxious, or sad or hurt, and we say, you know, this triggered this, which caused trauma from here, which was derived from this childhood, or it was derived from, you know, this mountain in my life, or this valley that I was going through in a past moment, right? After we do that shadow work, we're aware, we know what happened, we know what caused those feelings. Do you think that it's because I don't know if it's always healthy to create a behavior or a system that says, hey, when I feel this next time, I'm going to default to this behavior, because then I know that I can process through those feelings. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying, yes. But give me
it's important to feel angry, right? It's important to feel sadness.
Let's do a metaphor. So do for anger or something.
Do you think it's important for us as living organisms to become triggered and to identify different behaviors and habits that we need to implement on specific triggers? Or do you think it's more important for us as organisms just to know when we're generally triggered, to do a general habit or behavior?
Okay. So I
want your professional opinion. You know what I'm saying?
My spiritual advice.
Your professional spiritual opinion.
I'm going to say there's no one size fits all, for one.
Yep.
Because part of being present is just having the awareness, right? So I think that being triggered simply means that you saw somebody reflected something to you that is existing inside of you already, right?
Yep.
So it's like, if, for example, if I'm gonna say Emmett Till, because my friend was talking to me about Emmett Till, the movie Emmett Till on Hulu. I was like, I'm not watching that because I don't like to be triggered by watching movies or shows that traumatizing movies on Black experiences. I don't want to do that. That's not how I don't want to vibe like that. That's not what I want to do. And so the reason why I don't want to do that is because, of course, it's a trigger to me, because I see my lived experiences in those movies and shows, right? So then I'm watching my hurt being played out on the movie, therefore I'm triggered, right?
Sure.
So like when people say trigger warning, when they say trigger warning, domestic abuse, trigger warning, sexual assault, trigger warning, infant loss, right? It is to warn somebody who has gone through that and who might relive an experience that they don't want to live again. And so a lot of the time, so this is, I'm going to bring it in. A lot of the times, the things that are triggering us that we are like caught off guard by is things that are sometimes subconscious. Sometimes we don't even know that it is a trigger to us because somehow in our brain has shut down and protected us from that memory. So every time, if you think of a song, like, have you ever been like, just something about this song, I just love it, I don't know what's so amazing about it, or a smell, or just a food that you're in love with? Like yesterday, I was like, I think that my love for musicals came because a little girl, I had this flashback yesterday. And I was like, this is why I love musicals. It's a fond memory in my childhood. So it's fond to me as an adult. And I didn't know until yesterday night when me and my son was driving home singing musicals together. And I was like, I remembered me and my sister in the back seat of the station wagon singing The Lion King when it was on a square tape with that you could do the pencil to rewind it with. I saw that last night. I was triggered, but it wasn't a trigger that made me cry. It was like, this is a beautiful memory. Now I get it.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to say is like, triggers is not always associated with uncomfortable feelings,
I agree.
And so then to say how to handle it, right? Like, okay, if I'm triggered like this, then do I manage that by creating this behavior? You can, if it is so uncomfortable that you, I don't know, need to like wade into it.
If it's so uncomfortable that it distracts you.
Oh, Andrew, give me 5.
Indistractable, baby. I love that book. I'm not a paid sponsor for Indistractable by any means, but that book is changing my life.
Isn't it?
I like that though. You like that, Andrea? If it triggers you to the point where it distracts you,
yes,
then it's important. I just got chills. Did you get chills? Did you feel that? Was that you? Was that you? Are you sending some spiritual vibrations over here?
It's an agreement.
Yeah, everybody agree with that.
Spirit agrees.
From left and right.
Yes.
If you get triggered enough to where it distracts you, then it's important to create a behavior or a habit or a system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To keep you on your.
You see how we got there?
Yeah.
And we always get there. we always get there. We ask the questions. We have the conversation.
Yes.
This is Keena in the bathroom right now, reflecting on the words. What's this word mean? What's this word mean? Hold on, Andrew. Let me wipe my butt.
Literally, right? Literally.
What you doing, Andrew? Write it down. I can't because I'm driving. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes. We always get there.
We do.
But the weird, the most awkward times. But now we have Jason Hateman from At Your Core Communications doing our podcast.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. So then, yes. If it takes you out of your flow.
Yeah, out of your element.
Your flow state.
Yeah. You know, I don't like being taken out of my flow state.
Yeah. So then it's like, okay, let me do something about this. And that might be, like there's different things that might look like.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Yeah. I'm just glad that I can mentally compartmentalize when I'm going to create a habit or behavior.
Yes.
And if I'm like, can I work through this? Can I process this now? Can I keep doing what I'm doing? Absolutely. Okay. I don't need to create a habit or behavior because it didn't affect my day. Yeah. I'm shadow work later. You know what I mean? I can do my thing. Okay, do my nightly reflections. Yeah. But if I'm so happy or I'm so upset that it just distracted me from what I was doing, whoa. And I agree with you. So to transition, when you talked about a trigger not always, causing a negative emotion. Andre and I have talked about this, because of my father and I, have such a disconnected relationship. It's why I yearn to be so connected, right? So
we're getting there.
Yeah. So there's been moments in my life, even recently over the last, few months, where I've been around people, where I've helped encourage the engagement of hey, I'm a daughter and I'm 11 years old and you're a father. You're almost in your 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And I've encouraged this daughter to coach him on how to love her and how to connect with her.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, that spiritual movement we felt when we just said about the triggers, that level of connectivity, I had hair on my arms standing straight up. My legs, I just felt like I was floating.
Yes.
Right. But that level of connectivity that I was a part of,
mm-hmm.
I sacrificed me going home on time. I sacrificed, me being where I was supposed to be until 3 or 4 in the morning for that level of connectivity. Right.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm thinking about it, that was a trigger, right? It was a trigger where it was such a high flowing, vibrating, positive connection. Nothing else in the world mattered. Time was irrelevant to me. I disrespected time. And then I had good justification. I'm just like, hey, like I experienced something beautiful. And Andrea's like, well, you need to experience something beautiful between the hours of this AM and this PM. You know what I'm saying? But it's I think that even you saying that it's not always a negative emotion, it's important for people to understand that even in that positive moment, you have to understand if it's going to trigger you to distract you from what said you would do today, you don't want to lie to yourself.
No. Or to anybody else.
Yeah. You want to fulfill those commitments.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. That's amazing.
Mic drop.
And I want to know, like, so with that experience with the daughter, was it a daughter and a father?
Yeah, it was a daughter and a father.
Daughter and a father.
Yeah.
We're not, because we're not done with the discussion about, like what the root was with you being triggered this morning.
Yeah.
I know that it's a lot of parenting things that are coming up, and I think that there's there's layers, because with you being a father, you're doing so many things raising your children that was not demonstrated to you by your own father raising you. You know what I mean? So in a lot of ways, a lot of things that you're doing is like you changing the narrative for yourself through your relationship with your son. And I think perhaps, I don't know, how are you feeling about, what you're going to do like in the relationship with your dad, but it seems to me the more that I learn about my relationship parenting my children, and then me being intentional about no longer doing things that I was doing out of training from my upbringing, and just doing things because this is the right thing. This is what makes sense. This is intentionally curated for my child. It also heals like my inner child, my inner little girl, right? And the more I work on healing and parenting my own inner child, the more room it makes for me to make amends with, my parents who, I've had to heal and things from them, from how I was raised. So how are you? I don't know. How do you feel about with you and how you're raising your children and fighting for Anthony the way that you do?
I think it's definitely been a journey. I haven't, as his father, I haven't always been very encouraging. I think that, for his first, I'd say 12, 13 years. Yeah, 12, 13 years. Andrea's back there almost crying, shaking her head. Yeah, babe. 13 years, babe. 13 and a half. I'm just playing, babe. But for the first 12 to 13 years of his life, I have this iron sharpens iron, always be coaching mentality, right? And I've developed myself not to have a victim mindset, and so when it comes to, when you see that victim mindset, I haven't always known how to, get him out of that mindset without it being black and white. It was more like, no, it's important that you do this because these are the consequences of these actions. This needs to happen. Like the authoritative parent.
Yes. High accountability.
I was the authoritative parent with a high level of accountability. He fast forward to now he's almost 16. In the last 3 years, in my level of development as a leader, it's helped me be a better father, because now I am more supportive and encouraging of him. When he does make decisions that I don't agree with, I still let him know, like, hey, I still support you. Yeah. Anything you decide to do, I got your back. I'm your biggest cheerleader. Now it's just important that when you make these decisions as your father, I encourage that communication with you and understanding what a reality is. Deception, perception, deception. At the end of the day, though, if I'm seeing you in everything you do, and you're not going to, go down a path I would like you to go down,
Right.
then it's just important that I share my knowledge and my wisdom and my upbringing and seeing everything around me on what your perspective or what your reality may be. So when those things come into fruition, you're not shocked.
Right.
You're not like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was gonna happen.
Right.
Like, no, remember we talked about this 50 times in the car when you said you want to do this. And I'm like, I got your back. You can do that if you want to experience it. Just know that the consequences of that action would go here or here or here or here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables. I don't even know how I got into that tangent. I drifted. Normally we pull each other back.
Okay, I'm listening.
I want to go back to your question though.
Well, I was just asking you like
my upbringing.
For you, like how are you seeing that as a how are you seeing that impacting not only the way that you are raising and fighting for your son, well, for all of your children, right? Because you also have children in 2 different generations of your own, lifespan, and then also in your children's lifespan, right? But then, for you having, the relationship that you have with your parents, like, this is a different time.
Yeah.
So how are you, through your parenting, changing the narrative for your kids, parenting and healing your inner child, and then giving yourself room to make amends and to have a strong relationship with your parents?
So it's gonna sound crazy, and Andrea, you might think this is gonna sound crazy because you know me, right? The non-crazy part of answering this question is I've always known I've been disconnected with my father, right? And within the past few years, I've learned that that's why I yearn for connectivity and encourage that amongst any person that comes across my path. What I didn't realize until this moment, and this is where you're gonna think it's crazy, is my mom was very authoritative.
Yeah.
Now I know that.
She was.
I know that. You know that.
We all know that.
But I'm just realizing now that the reason I yearn for connectivity and the reason I yearn for encouragement is because I didn't have that connection as a child, and I didn't have that encouragement as a child.
And you parented your children for those decade certain amount of years,
the way
that your mom raised you,
and my dad,
and your dad.
Remember, we've been friends for decades.
Yeah,
I used to work 3 jobs in school in my 20s. 120 hours a week.
We worked together.
You know what I'm saying? Where we work at?
We worked at Pick and Save.
Oh yeah,
in Monona. Okay, you was the
16.
You taught me about fruit.
You know what I mean?
Andrew taught me how to find ripe fruit.
Yeah, for real. And it was probably like one of my 3 jobs. You know what I'm saying? But like even that disconnection portion and like being with the kids and the family on Sundays, that's that authoritative piece. Right? We're gonna go zoo. We're gonna eat out. We're gonna do everything I want to do. Man, that's crazy.
You know what I'm also hearing? In authoritative parenting. Okay. Let me drop this on you. Go ahead.
Transition.
In authoritative parenting, I'm realizing that many of our parents raised us in that authoritative manner from a mindset of fear, control.
Yeah.
Because when you are afraid, you're going to do everything you can to maintain control. And so everything has to be, you know what I mean? Like, because if I, as your leader, do not have control, then everything is going to fail and it's going to be on me. So I'm so afraid that I cannot let there be any type of slack. There cannot be any room for wiggling because I will fail you. I'm thinking that that's where the authoritative parenting comes from, control. You don't get room to mess up if you're raised under an authoritative parent. You don't get room to experiment. There is no trial and error. Everything has to be, But that is not coming from a place of empowerment. It's coming from a place of fear. When you have to have all of the control, it is because you are scared poopless for this being a clean,
So we decide it's gonna be a clean TBD. I don't know.
Should we have this be a clean
we're still
TBD?
trying to figure out the mission here. You know what I mean?
What'd you say at the beginning? You ain't gotta.
You don't have to be great to get started,
but you have to get started to be great. To become great. We
Yeah.
already great though.
You so funny. We just getting started.
But we're still
getting started. We just getting started.
But
No,
yeah,
I love that. I love that a lot. And I think, that you, I think you hit it right on the ball, from that, someone who's fearful of change or fearful of things, being different than what they anticipate. They want to control A through Z, 1 through infinity.
Yeah.
They got their hands on everything, but from a person who wants to encourage and empower, you want to, instill those values and beliefs, but allow them to make their own decisions.
Yes, you want them to find their own authentic voice.
One thing that I, over the last 2 years of being a part of this business and focusing on encouraging and empowering other people, one thing that I've learned is, when I'm in a room, the room's going to be bright, it's going to shine, things are going to be efficient, and that's not to toot my own horn. I'm just saying,
but it's true.
But it's so funny. The level of energy and the passion that I have and my thought process and how I think and how I see things as potential fires in a restaurant, restaurant could be doing great, but I'm like, nope, 15 potential fires. Let me touch this, plant this seed, plant this seed, plant this seed, water this. I'm not doing everything, but I'm making sure seeds and water is getting to the population.
Yes.
Right? But I think about how, understanding that when I'm not here, that's not going to happen. Right. And I think every great leader has to understand that when you're not in a room, the room's not the same.
Right.
Period. Okay. Point blank. That is black. That is white.
That cannot be disputed.
You're not in the room.
Right.
The room's not as valuable with you not there.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. But I think as a leader, it's important to not always focus, especially when you're building and developing character. Like, you want to help encourage, some healthy thought processes, some healthy behaviors, some healthy habits when you do your shadow work and figure out your triggers. But it's not about controlling the 10 to 15 different thought processes that are in the room. But how do you cultivate a culture of 10 to 15 different thought processes to where it's congruent energy?
Yeah, empowered.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same energy when you're there.
Right.
But what's that look like when you're not? And have you put in the shadow work with your people enough to where you can walk away?
The investment.
You can walk away and just have those high level conversations with your leaders. Yeah. And keep growing and developing.
Yeah.
But that's something I wanted to share. I learned that, like you said, you just, when you're there, it's great. When you're not there, you have to have that trust that you empower and encourage your people. Yeah. And you have to not be fearful that it's not different. I think the Pancake Cafe Stone team over the last week got 6 positive Google reviews. I'm at home with my son. And it's oh, Pancake Cafe, 5-star review. I'm like, look at the team. I'm like, okay, team, I see you guys. I want to call everybody and text them, But no, let me not do that. I'll take them out to dinner. What I'm saying?
I'm hearing parenting though here in this too. You could have literally said this about Pancake Cafe, or you could have said this about how you raise your child to become an adult and fly into the world.
Yeah, I absolutely
do you know?
Agree. Yeah,
I literally heard that in both.
Okay, so parenting, right? Educating and educate. This is where I want to get to. This goes back into the Slack, Andrea, who how back young, we, being an educator and a leader. Let's throw parent in there. Educator / leader / parent. Isn't it all one and the same?
I think it is. I mean, I think that ideally it is.
Yeah. I think the ideally of what it is.
It is.
Yeah, I agree.
We that's the aspiration, right?
Yeah.
I don't think everybody has the tools at the,
I agree
you know
what
I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that ideally, yeah.
Let's talk about leadership.
And at the beginning of the episode, you mentioned how your parenting has been impacted. I want to say that you were alluding to your parenting having improved as your leadership has improved, as you've done more development.
Yeah.
And I feel that that too when I first took a leadership role in my old career.
Yeah.
The more I did my own personal development to lead teams of people, then I was like, oh my God, I can do this on my kids. Let me have, one-on-ones with my children's.
Yeah.
My objective as a parent began to change because it was I don't want to raise you to be, in the authoritative way. I don't want to raise you to be a photocopy of me.
Right.
I want to raise you to be whoever you are, whoever that special thing is inside of you. I want to water those seeds.
Yeah.
I want that to grow, strengthen, flourish. And I want you to be equipped to go into the world, right? Or as you would say, when I leave the room, I want you to be able to handle those fires the best way that you can. And it's going to be a different way than me because, of course, I'm the only me. So I'm only going to be able to put them out, and I'm going to be able to do an amazing job putting them out. And I want to teach, train, and coach you, develop you to be able to put those fires out and be without a doubt confident that you're going to be able to do whatever that is that you do in the very best way that you can, in a way that I can't. That is like how I would want to run my team, so that even if I am in a wheelchair and, and I have to teach you guys how to, run with boxes, I can still do that, but I don't have to run with boxes to teach you how to do it. I can pull it out of what's already inside of you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the leadership in a job, in a career. If you're leading teams, if you're developing them, and it's also parenting. I tell my kids, I want to pour everything into you so that when you go into the world, you're equipped. Your inner voice is strong. You're solid. You feel empowered to make the best decisions with what you have and do a good job, not from a place of lack or insecurity or desperation, but from a place of confidence, of intelligence, of whatever word you want to say for well thought outness. That's how I feel as a parent.
You just gave me an epiphany. You gave me an aha moment.
Let's hear it.
So you have in order to coach people, they have to want to be coached, right? Because if you're coaching somebody that doesn't want to be coached, you're not coaching them.
Resistant.
Yeah, because they're not receiving that information. And I think when you just said that I want to pour everything into you, right? I don't know why that resonated with me, but I'm going to have to do some shadow work, right? But I also want to implement a behavior and a habit from this. You listen, Trees? I think when I love people, I know right now, going forward, I love my people, right? I think, there's this thing that I do with people where, in any business entity I'm in or wherever I'm at, I tend to be like, hey, like, I'm Drew. Like, what's your name? How do you like to be greeted? They're like, well, what do you mean? Do you like handshake? Do you like high five? Do you like hug? Do you like non-physical? Do you like elbow? You want me to step back? You want me to do an air five? And people really look at you differently when you respect how they want to be loved or connected with. I want to start my conversations with people and saying, what cup do you want me to pour into today?
I like that.
I love that.
Oh, we needed to get that on camera.
What cup would you like me to pour into today?
Yes.
And that's asking you to do some reflection, do some shadow work.
Yes.
But like your organism and how you're feeling, like what do you need from me?
Yeah. I like that.
What cup would you like me to pour into today?
And it gives them
and that's
room
empowering.
For authenticity. For
Raw
them to
authenticity.
Yes.
Let's not talk business right away. I know we got 50,000 things to do, but I need to know, how can I feed you?
Yes.
You're hungry, but I need to know what. But I want a pineapple. I'm hungry, and I would like a pineapple specifically. Thank you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I think from a growth standpoint, that's a game changer.
I think so too.
That's $1 billion statement right there, and we just gave that to y'all for free.
Put it on a shirt.
You know what I'm saying? Put it on a shirt. Oh my gosh, put it on a shirt.
What cup can I pour into today?
You know what I'm saying?
What cup? Wait, is it what cup can I, or what cup would you like me to?
What cup would you like me to pour into today?
I like that. You like that, Asen?
You like that? You like that, Trace? Asen,
yes.
I know you love when I pour everything on you. You're so funny.
But y'all pour into each other because, like, I know that you already know how she is for you. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna say my perspective. Like, I see how she just gently gives you the space to, like, don't want to say jello or pudding. I'm gonna say pudding. Like, she gives you space to be pudding and just to, come into your space and then just fill it out. However slow or fast, whether it's, cold or frozen or warm, whatever, mm-hmm. to let you just be the pudding and fill in the space. And it's like, she just gives you the space for it patiently, right? Like, she don't be rushing you, but she also stands her ground. You know what I mean? Cause she'd be like, I'm important. And you know what my love languages are, mm-hmm. But I just think it's beautiful the way that she advocates for the love that she needs, but then also, like, has created so much space for you over the years, just to grow into this amazing person, like, that you just, that you continue to evolve into. I think it's amazing because you do all the work that you do here, working with people and building teams and developing people. And the thread of all of that, has been Drea. You know what I mean? Like, she has literally been like the thread, like at the end of the day, where you go home or when you decompress or when you are processing or when you are coming to another plateau, or not plateau, but to another level
of awareness.
Of awareness, it's like, and don't think of this as like you're coming up to this next level and like, so I'm going to say this, but don't think that it's like I'm saying she's already at a higher level than you. I'm just saying you're at another level and she's just like, do you need a hand?
Yeah.
So that you can move into that new space.
Yeah.
I just think that's so beautiful.
I think that was a great analogy. I think that, as we elevate and as we build and grow and develop, the cup, the shape of the cup or the shape of what's holding the Jello is always changing.
Yes.
Right? Like our love is always growing. It's always changing.
Yes.
And because we do so much shadow work together,
yeah.
I always tell people like, you want to make things definite, but nothing's definite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So we have like these like laws of attraction, right? Like these, I just told Andrea, I was like, everything is fair in love and war. You know what I'm saying? I told that yesterday. But it's like we have like these rules of engagement within our love, right? And then we also have like these deviations.
Yeah.
Right? Like, well, this is kind of like a one-off because this comes here and this comes here, but then this also goes here.
Yeah.
So where do we take this? So I think what you said was like, I think with me being the Jello, I'm always, and Andrea knows this, like I'm always willing to adapt. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to her. I'll be in business meetings. I'm like, hey, is it an emergency? She'll be like, no, babe, I need you to get milk from the store. Okay, I'm gonna call you back. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think that like me being the Jello is a great analogy, and her holding the Jello, but that shape of holding the Jello always changes.
Yeah.
It might be a long cup.
Yeah.
It might be a long boat.
Yeah.
Some days it might be the Titanic with different rooms, and the Jello got to shift and move and get in everywhere.
Yeah.
But the space for the Jello is always there.
Yes. I would say I think that's what like Caleb recognizes in you. You know what I mean? Like my son. And let me tell you, he did ask me to play that song by Ja Rule last time that I saw you. He said, "Mommy, can you play?"
Did you play it?
I did.
Yeah.
It must have been like either later that night or the next day. But
what song was it again?
It was "I Cry."
Yeah, when you cry, I cry. We cry together.
He said, "Mommy, can you play that "I Cry" song?"
Did he like it?
He did, and so I played it like 2 or 3 times for him. But I think that that's that example because just seeing you evolve as a person and having experience, allowing yourself, right? Because you could be resistant and be like, I think that that's part of what makes the greatness exude from you is the fact that you're not afraid of coming into, oh, I see some clouds there, but that's a part of the path I'm walking into. I don't know what's in there. Instead of being like, well, I'm not going into that, you'd be like,
get my rain jacket.
Whether it be let me tiptoe in, let me just put on my windshield wipers, whatever you're going to go through. And I think that that's what makes like the fact that you are not shying away from those things makes you a really good example as a parent, as a leader, as a man, as a partner. You know what I mean? Like, I think those are the things, those are qualities and traits worth recognizing because I was talking to somebody and then I said to Caleb, well, guys cry, don't they, Caleb? Don't they cry? He was like, yep. You know what I mean? And it's beautiful for, for the generation who we are leaving things to, for them to be able to have those type of examples of what it looks like to fight for something that's important, what it looks like to do something even when it's scary, what it looks like to acknowledge that you're not going to always have it together, but you're always going to be trying.
Well, how beautiful is it that Caleb, how old is Caleb?
7.
At 7, goes from one thought process, has a conversation with a male, right, that he looks up to, and now his thought process changed. Yeah. And now his level of awareness, just at 7, he thinks differently. There's adults nowadays that they can have hundreds of conversations with hundreds of people, and they will decide mentally to not think differently. Yeah. And just at the age of 7. Caleb's aware of receiving information in different perspectives, and that's credit to you and putting him in those positions of a level of understanding and being empathetic and seeing different views and being open to receiving that information.
That's that Libra.
Yeah. The good, the bad, the breakthrough.
That's the Libra.
That's the Libra in you.
Yeah, the Libra in them. You're maybe that's what it is. You just have experience working with Libras. That's your jam.
Yeah, 20 years right here.
Yeah,
Andrea's Libra.
I know that. That's
okay, yeah. That's why I'm still struggling.
Look, that's
20 years in.
I know.
Still trying to figure it out.
That's why I went to the doctor. I said, can you induce me? Because I don't want my baby to be a Libra. I want a Virgo.
So funny.
And I was like, okay, well, I'll have a Libra. I'll just love me 2 Libras. Do you think we're done?
I think we're good. I don't know how to recap this, but holla back.
If you were going to go and tell somebody what we talked about, what would you say?
Oh, man. Are you willing to answer your own question on that one?
Yeah, I'll do that too.
Okay, why don't you go follow with that one? Because there's so many things.
Okay. If somebody said, well, this is my recap. If somebody said, okay, Kina, what y'all talk about on your podcast today? I would say we talked about parenting.
Yep.
And how it carries over into leadership and development.
Yeah.
And we talked about triggers.
Yeah, distractible triggers.
Triggers, and whether or not we should make processes with them.
Yeah.
How to discern whether or not a system needs to be developed to handle it.
Yes. Yep, I would agree with that.
Now, what would you say?
I would say we talked about leadership and parenting.
That's why I didn't want you.
You're so funny. No, for real though.
Okay.
No, but definitely, I think the one thing that really resonated with me is just processing positive and negative triggers, and when is it appropriate to implement a behavior or habit based on if that trigger is distractible or indistractable. Okay. And then the distractible book is just
shout out to the book.
Yeah. Shout out to the book. The book is good.
We're gonna have to ask for them to plug us.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I agree with everything you said because I do, but I do. You know what I mean? But I think also too, like educators, leadership, parenting, how the core values of a great leader or educator or parent all somehow, some way resonate with each other. And even like you said, with like the one-on-ones, like that's huge. Yeah. Anthony, hey, we're gonna have a one-on-one. What you mean? We're going to go for a car ride. We're going to go get something to eat, and we're going to be back in 30 minutes. But that's a one-on-one, right? Because in a business setting, you spend 30 minutes talking about different behaviors and habits and really just like loving people and connecting with people, I would say, is what we talked about too. And figuring out, how to do that and how we've done that through our lives. I think we shared some good moments, with Anthony, with Andrea, with Caleb, with you and I, and seeing each other from different lights and discerning, when is it appropriate to go through that motion and defend or not, and it's okay to do that. Even though you don't want to do it or you encourage not doing it, it's important that when it happens, you go through that motion. Yeah. And not dismiss those negative emotions. That I think that I'll tell people about that too. Not having that toxic positivity. Yeah. And just feeling that emotion, processing it, evaluating it, and get through it, and then do your shadow work. Yeah. And then figuring out, is it a distractible trigger? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I'm going to talk to you about positive and negative versus comfortable and uncomfortable.
Oh, good way to recap the show. Next show, we're going to talk about positive and negative.
Hierarchy.
And comfortable and uncomfortable.
Good and bad.
And the breakthrough.
Well, I'm saying those words. You know what
good
I mean?
And bad. Yeah.
Good, bad.
Okay, I like
positive,
that. Good,
negative.
bad, positive, negative.
Because there's hierarchy in all of those. So we're going to talk about that next week. We're going to talk about hierarchical language and how that absorbs into our psyche and the way that we assign values to things.
I love it.
That'll be part of the next conversation.
Holla back next week.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.